The game Tower of Trials was losing its popularity due to its extreme difficulty. Jin Hyuk was the first person to successfully conquer the game. However, one day, Tower of Trials became a reality, and human lives were threatened. Only Jin Hyuk had the ability to prevent this catastrophe, but he had no intention of saving the world for free. He was determined to reap all the riches, followers, and fame of an S-grade hero. But did his new abilities drain away his humanity, or did he gain those powers because he was becoming a monster? Trash game refers to a game that simply isn't fun, or is unbalanced, or has subpar administration or absurd difficulty levels. The virtual reality game Tower of Trials is in this category. When the game was released, Korean gamers, whose hobby was to conquer the game before the developers even expected them to, got on the grind to conquer the game. But once 3 years had gone by, people just stopped playing the game because they started realizing that it was completely unbeatable. This game was not intended for fun, rather it was almost like torture for those who played it. However, there were still pros who continued to play this impossibly difficult game, including Jin Hyuk. Luckily, he became the first person to have cleared the Tower of Trials after 11 years devoted to it. Then the game system announced that there would be a reboot to update this version, but Jin Hyuk decided to quit the game because the salary of $500 a month as a streamer wasn't stable enough, and he was already 27 years old. So he planned to post a notice that he was quitting the job, but suddenly the Tower of Trials became real, and everyone was notified that they had to clear the next floor within 90 days or humanity would perish. Before we continue, take a moment to answer the question of the day: what's the best skill from a manhwa? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out. Now back to the recap. The news was bombastic, but our lead quickly made up his mind. He rushed out to items, and on his way out, he felt a strange excitement filling his heart. Jin Hyuk made his way to an underground mall where, in the game, there was an event station. There he saw a bunch of people already waiting and immediately knew that these people had also played the game. All of those people were fully on guard as the item was extremely limited in quantity. Then, a nicely dressed man approached Jin Hyuk. He was the CEO of the streamer agency that Jin Hyuk was signed on to. Knowing that Jin Hyuk had spent a great deal of time on the game, the man offered him a collaboration to gain more of the item. But Jin Hyuk, who worked under the slavery-like contract of the man's company, immediately knew his ill intentions, so he just punched the guy in the face. Suddenly, from the ground, a mangrove grew tall and lush. It immediately fruited, and these were the magic fruits that gave strength, agility, health, and magic stats. The other players immediately fought for the fruits, but Jin Hyuk stood calmly on the side. Most people didn't even know about the fruit. Those who played the game a few times focused on getting the fruit, but Jin Hyuk enjoyed the more sadistic and perverted process that followed. He thought that eating the mangrove fruit would increase his agility and power, but it turned out that the fruit was deadly. Anyone who ate it would die. Jin Hyuk planned to work with Lee Jong-soo to distract the tree and make it easier to approach. However, Jong-soo betrayed him and refused to attack the tree with Jin Hyuk after they had agreed to do it together. What a jerk. Jin Hyuk knew that the tree would attack whoever stood farthest away, and secretly laughed about the fact that Jong-soo was the one attacked by the tree. Jin Hyuk then used his exceptional memory of the tree's attack patterns to take advantage and access the core of the mangrove. Finally, the core of the mangrove was revealed, exactly as Jin Hyuk had experienced in the game. However, this was just a mob event that did not provide any experience. At best, it was only giving a spot in the Hall of Fame. Jin Hyuk was attacked by the tree from many directions, but he had nothing to fear because he had repeated this process many times before. When Jin Hyuk was close to winning from the tree, a flock of butterflies flew out. They were the sleep butterflies that spread sleeping powder, so Jin Hyuk had to fight while holding his breath. Finally, he defeated the mangrove. Jin Hyuk finally got his hand on the tree orb, the truly precious item that he came for. This item was no less than a hack for players, as it gave stat points 4 times higher than that of fruits. Jin Hyuk ate the orb and checked his status interface. As expected, he achieved 12 stat points and was no doubt the strongest level 1. Later on, when the clip of Jin Hyuk defeating the mangrove was uploaded with his face censored, the forum exploded. Everyone was stunned by his combat skills. Jin Hyuk also received tons of offers from companies with sky-high salaries. Just yesterday, Jin Hyuk was hardly getting by, but now he knew that his knowledge and experience were invaluable. Ignoring the appealing offers, Jin Hyuk planned his next move, to collect the replicas of the holy items at the National Museum of Korea. That night, entering the museum and having expected that other top players had already made it there, Jin Hyuk was fully on guard. People came to the National Museum of Korea for the Great Map of the Eastland, the map now imbued with magical energy and containing information about the Tower of Trials. It shows where the mazes and ruins are and explains which monsters and items are found inside them. While everyone was fighting to get the map, a strong man walked up and ordered everyone to stand still, threatening to kill them if they moved. He was confident because he had an awakened, unique ability. Before anyone could find out what his ability was, an old man claiming to be a kind and peaceful person approached him. The young man arrogantly threatened to break the old man's neck like a chicken, but his mouth brought him misfortune because the old man had magic fire type and could turn the young man into coal with just one finger. The old man collaborated with a girl who seemed beautiful but had a dark and sinister power. She had a miniature black dog and threatened anyone who moved would immediately become enemies and be killed by her monster dog. The monster immediately grew larger after being released and frightened everyone, causing them to retreat and give up on the map. However, Jin-hook walked boldly in without fear and picked up a historical document, which really irritated the girl. Anubis attacked him, and to the girl's surprise, Jin-hook easily deflected the spear with bare hands. The girl lost her confidence and snotty attitude. She hastily took out her other Anubis statues, to which Jin-hook expressed that he was impressed, though it was clear he meant it sarcastically. If you can't tell, he knew well that the gap between him and the girl was way too large. Jin-hook smiled confidently, and the girl was enraged by his disrespectful attitude. She commanded the Anubis to attack him, and Jin-hook threw an ancient painting out and inserted his mana into it, activating the Pinewood Tiger. The tiger easily ate up the Anubis Jin-hook's new way of using artifacts, and his powerful magic was threatening to the girl. She kneeled due to the overwhelming fear, but Jin-hook won the fight. He came over to the girl and asked her to hand him something. The girl pretended that she didn't know what he was talking about, but Jin-hook simply said it out loud. He wanted the mask of Tutankhamun. The girl refused, saying that the mask is useless in Korea, but with the threat of the tiger, she gave in and handed Jin-hook the artifact. He left the place, aiming for the strongest skills in the game. After leaving his tiger behind to guard the others against following him, Jin-hook went upstairs and met the old man. They saw a one-star barrier that was resistant to physical and magical attacks. However, there was a way to destroy it, but there was a condition. The old man had to use his flame magic constantly to weaken the barrier until they went inside and came back out with all the necessary relics. Jin-hook was weak and couldn't hold the magic for too long, so, even though the old man might not believe him, it was the best option for that moment. Jin-hook promised to give the old man the map in return for something else, which made the old man trust him. When he entered, he found a cabinet with a broken sword inside, indicating that someone had been there before and was the one who put up the barrier. However, Jin-hook didn't care about the sword. He was looking for the chain coins from the Joseon era to combine them with two other relics to create the most powerful weapon in the Tower of Trials, the Eye of Truth. This artifact allowed him to copy and store the many abilities that exist in this world, as well as using those skills to create even stronger ones. Meanwhile, the old man was struggling to hold the barrier for a longer period of time. Jin-hook wanted to copy the ability of the old man, and the copy condition was to reveal the old man's true feelings to piss off the guy and copy his ability. Jin-hook revealed to him that his spending up his flame all the while was useless. Then Jin-hook even burned the map. This was also to get rid of the possibility that someone might gain the map and any advantages over him. Jin-hook wanted to secure his leading position. The man was furious and swore out loud. Jin-hook took the chance and immediately copied his fire elemental skills. The man wanted to attack Jin-hook, but he was astounded to see Jin-hook using his exact power with much stronger intensity. The man instead just gave up before leaving. Jin-hook ordered the man and the girl to level up while waiting for him to contact them. Heading home, Jin-hook was extremely pleased with all his gains. He was planning on gaining the next skills when his stomach started growling, so Jin-hook decided to drop by a local shop for gokba. In the shop, people were discussing the passing away of many people at the national museums of many countries last night through the news. Jong-hyuk learned that the government had established something called the Awaken Association in response to the Tower of Trials incident. Nationwide recruitment was open for those with powers, and the association's president also announced special treatment for Jin-hyuk if he were to join them. But Jin-hyuk had no intention of joining others, no matter what. In this world, the value of a single well-trained individual was worth more than that of 100 average ones. The Tower of Trials had opened, and as a celebration for entering the tower, each player was provided with 100 coins, the currency used within the tower. Players could upload videos showcasing their accomplishments and earn 100 coins for every 10,000 views. However, cheating or manipulating view counts would result in punishment. The more famous a player became, the more coins they could earn. Everyone was in a hurry to clear the tower as quickly as possible and be ahead of the others. However, for Jin-hyuk, sharing information with others would be a greater loss than earning coins. Jin-hyuk came to Labyrinthos, which was amazingly designed by Daedalus in Crete, famous for its confusing layout and various traps to discourage people from entering. A group of people had spied on Jin-hyuk and saw him open the labyrinth without a key, proving that this floor was not that difficult. Some were afraid that Jin-hyuk would not share the items with them, so they plotted to let him have his eternal rest inside the labyrinth. The girl quickly offered Jin-hyuk to collaborate with the team to share the risks. Friendly as the girl seemed, Jin-hyuk sensed something unjust. He activated his Eye of Truth and saw her stats. Jin-hyuk was extremely interested in the girl's commune skills, which made one appear friendly to any stranger. This would be a great help when he had to deal with that winged girl, so he agreed to work with them. Friendly, they introduced themselves to each other. The leading girl grabbed Jin-hyuk's arm and activated her commune skills, asking Jin-hyuk which floor he had climbed to. Jin-hyuk flinched, but knowing that it was her skills, he pushed her away. He warned the group that the labyrinth changes at fixed points in time, and when they were still confused, the labyrinth quaked forcefully. It was extremely dangerous for everyone else, but it was nothing for Jin-hyuk. Learning that they couldn't escape the labyrinth, they were all desperate, blaming Jin-hyuk for not warning them earlier. Jin-hyuk couldn't care less. He bluntly said that he didn't ask them to follow him, and the consequences they faced would be of their own ill intentions. One of the boys was about to attack Jin-hyuk when a gigantic monster appeared and finished him. When the group froze in fear, Jin-hyuk attacked the monster vigorously and quickly gained the hidden stat. Jin-hyuk had gained a hidden stat called Gap, which narrowed the gap in battles with stronger opponents but widened when fighting weaker ones. He'd already endured the Minotaur's attack thousands of times in the past, and his body had memorized all of the attack patterns. Jin-hyuk was a veteran, so no matter how powerful the attack was, it was useless if it didn't hit him. During his fight with the Minotaur, Jin-hyuk deliberately allowed himself to be injured because he believed that a few drops of blood were well worth the increase in hidden stats. He intentionally let himself get hit to improve his strength. Meanwhile, the rest of the group was hiding and trying to find a way out. They didn't want to die, but Jin-hyuk noticed their intentions and interrogated them about why they weren't fighting. Suddenly, the maze changed, and they moved to another scene. The group began to argue and wanted to escape the labyrinth because it was dangerous. Jin-hyuk offered to help them find the exit, but they had to stay in the maze for at least 30 days, and nothing was free. If they wanted to go with him to the exit, they had to pay him coins. The forum exploded with a piece of news about the Hall of Fame. A player successfully made the world's first 10+ refinement to their item, and of course that person was our main lead, Jin-hyuk, in the maze. After ripping off the two followers, Jin-hyuk opened the artifact exchange interface and got himself a deck of tarot cards, an ancient bronze key, a wooden wagon wheel piece, and some lottery refinement scrolls. These are the kinds of items that other players wouldn't even take a look at, but Jin-hyuk knew how to make the most of even the trashiest items. He quickly combined 3 items to make an S-level Wheel of Fortune. With the help of the lucky wheel, he maxed out his luck. He took out the lottery scrolls and used them on his dagger, easily refining it with his full-on look. Fast forward to 10 days later, the two followers had already turned hopeless from the hell they were currently in. But Jin-hyuk was taking everything in stride, desperate to know that it would take their guild 3 weeks to rescue them. The two wanted to take the chance when Jin-hyuk was sleeping to unalive him. The young man had planned to assassinate Jim, but Hana stopped him because even though Jin-hyuk was sleeping, his reaction speed was incredible, and he would likely wake up the moment he was attacked and counterattack. Hana had intended to use the stinger of a giant zucchini wasp, a lethal poison that could kill 100 trolls with a single drop, to finish him off while they were eating. Hana secretly put poison in the food, but Jin-hyuk knew what she was up to. When the two of them turned their heads, he switched the food with the young man's. As expected, he ate the poisoned food and passed away. Furthermore, Jin-hyuk discovered that they were secretly broadcasting. He reported it to the system, and the viewers were immediately punished by being kicked out of the broadcasting room and banned from watching any videos for a month. Hana's punishment was even more severe. When she received the news, the Minotaur appeared. Hana believed that Jin-hyuk would always protect her as he had done before, but this was not the case. The 240-hour collaboration had ended, and Jin Hyuk had learned her communication skills and no longer needed her. Nevertheless, Jin Hyuk continued to attack the Minotaur until it brought out its final skills, the level 10 Berserk state, threatening to shred Jin Hyuk apart. It attacked him, but Jin Hyuk had been improving as well. He fended off its attack and proactively counter-attacked it. Noticing that Jin Hyuk was smiling in such a dangerous fight, the girl was speechless and frightened. During the fight, Jin Hyuk had already gotten his gap stat increased to 57. When the Labyrinthos was confident that it could beat Jin Hyuk in one last punch, the explosion ended, and it was suspended for 24 hours. Jin Hyuk's gap stat is now enough for him to narrow down 19 levels compared to his opponents. In the next 20 days, Jin Hyuk continued farming on the Labyrinthos and reached his target of 100 gap stats before leaving. Jin Hyuk spared Park Hannah's life for the Graham Ring, the most precious artifact available on the first floor, and an evil labor contract. Jin Hyuk fused two of his skills to make the Stigma of the Soul, a skill that bound the Stigma target to fully obey the caster, and used it on Park Hannah. With that, Park Hannah became the first intern at Jin Hyuk's company. Hannah and Jin Hyuk became the first people to clear the labyrinth. Their accomplishment video will be broadcast in the Hall of Fame tomorrow. As a reward, each player will receive 5,000 coins, but Jin Hyuk took Hannah's coins because she was his intern and had to obey his orders. Jin Hyuk is now the player with the most coins on the server. He ordered Hannah to return and bring him Bram's ring within 3 days. Jin Hyuk decided to find his old game friends. They met at a cafe and introduced themselves again. The girl was named Yu Yunhua, and the man was named Lee Taimin. Jin Hyuk felt comfortable with them because they were very sociable and would be good friends with each other. The two told Jin Hyuk what had happened in the past month, including the Awakening Association's testing to classify players. Those who did not meet the requirements failed and could not go to the second floor, but those with above F score could pass and would be flooded with offers to join guilds. Today, Jin Hyuk and Hannah went to be tested, and they met Hannah's older brother Park Hajin to copy his skills. Jin Hyuk had to maximize the hostility between the two. After easily knocking down the enraged guild member, Jin Hyuk met Kim Kitai, the guild's head whose level is over 20. He challenged Kim on the fact that his subordinate was providing Korean ginseng to China, and mentioned the remedy to ginseng's side effects to prevent the public's eyes. Kim established a blackout barrier around him and Jin Hyuk. Jin Hyuk's companions were very worried and rushed to help, but Jin Hyuk was all calm inside. Jin Hyuk offered the information about the last ingredient in exchange for access to Kim's guild's 10 dungeons. Kim, although very skeptical, accepted the offer. When he wanted to attack Jin Hyuk to threaten him a bit, Jin Hyuk destroyed his barrier and got out easily. That Jin Hyuk easily got out shocked everyone, and he was able to max the hostility between him and the guild members, thus successfully copying his skill. Shallow breathing, he moved on to do the prowess test. To the officer's shock, Jin Hyuk walked confidently to the middle grade test stone and cut it in half. He threatened the officer not to post his result until 1 week later. Coming out, he received the Gram Ring from Park Hannah after lying to his two friends about his ranking. He headed home while planning on taking the dungeon test on the first floor's only ruin, a domain that no one has ever cleared. Jin Hyuk went to the ruins of the mountain, but as an F-rank player he couldn't enter alone and had to register as a porter. When Jin Hyuk checked out other players' stats, a friendly porter gave him a quick nudge, reminding him to hurry up and hand out the water and ice to their team. Jin Hyuk noticed that these players had the Zion Guild symbol on their armor, so he decided to use his good communication skills to try and make friends with them. Among them was the youngest daughter of a fancy European family, Laurentia Teresa. She was super famous in Europe and was a level 29 player. To learn some cool new skills, Jin Hyuk had to save Teresa from a dangerous spot. Now let's talk about Chunhwa's gang. They accidentally triggered the ruined security system by smacking the Guardian sentry, and guess what? It woke up a sleeping bomb. When that bomb woke up, it called in some Guardians to guard the ruins. They only had 10 minutes left, and there were two choices: run away and leave the non-fighters behind, or keep fighting with no backup. Chunhwa decided to keep going because they had sent Teresa with them, and they couldn't start over again. But awakening those Guardians was super serious and scary, and it had Chunhwa's crew worried. The leader quickly got his team ready to take on the ruins guards to make sure they didn't lose too many folks. He told one of his team members to give up on the solo players. Those solo players were in big trouble with the knights, but Teresa came to the rescue. She rushed over and saved them. Meanwhile, Jin Hyuk had just saved a nice uncle's life, and he was battling another knight. But he didn't want to defeat it and level up, so he held back. When Teresa got there, she saw Jin Hyuk with a knife near the uncle and thought he was trying to hurt him. So she got the man out of there and pointed her sword at Jin-hyuk. They started fighting because Teresa didn't hear Jin-hyuk's explanation. He had no choice but to defend himself. Finally, when he managed to capture her, the uncle explained the misunderstanding. After that, they had a friendly chat. Jin-hyuk offered to go with Teresa into the ruins, since they both wanted something from the same place. Teresa agreed, but this meant she had to leave her guild temporarily. The guild said she could go, but she had to be back before their main quest began. Jin-hyuk also volunteered to join her, all in the name of love. As they entered Peter's oath, both Teresa and Jin-hyuk got an indirect message from the boss. Teresa was sure that Boss Master had noticed their presence, but Jin-hyuk seemed overly confident, thinking the boss acknowledged only him because he knew all about the ruin. With a puzzled expression, Teresa turned to Jin-hyuk and asked, "What should we do?" Jin-hyuk had a plan. "Let's try drawing out the undead monsters by showing off your divine powers," he suggested. Acting on his idea, Teresa unleashed the undead creatures, much to their surprise. But their newfound challenge was far from over. Out of nowhere, the elite lich of the hidden ruins emerged, launching a devastating move called Black Lightning. It threatened to obliterate everything, even their Class 3 barrier and Level 5 energy shield. Teresa was in grave danger, and Jin-hyuk felt helpless. Staring at the dire situation, Jin-hyuk realized it was nothing like the game he'd played before. But just as the elite lich was about to claim victory, a mysterious young man intervened, swiftly dispatching the lich. He declared, "It's been a while." Confused, Jin-hyuk didn't recognize the man until he drew his sword. The sword awakened Jin-hyuk's memory. It was Chun, the strongest swordsman from the game. Chun had always wanted a rematch, and it seemed he found it today. Before their battle began, Jin-hyuk picked up a mysterious pill from a nearby coffin. As Chun activated his skills, Jin-hyuk found himself at a disadvantage. This triggered a special condition in Jin-hyuk's fusion skills, the ability to copy skills from his opponent. The battle was on. Jin-hyuk wielded his dagger as a sword and attacked Chun, who countered with his ace card, the sword energy. Jin-hyuk risked breaking his dagger, but the pill he found came to his rescue. He fused it with his sword skills, leveling the playing field and breaking Chun's confidence. Still, Chun demanded that Jin-hyuk take his life. Jin-hyuk, assessing Chun's strength, calmly replied, "I look forward to our next match," and left. As Chun departed, he revealed something astonishing. Jin-hyuk's gamer name was Poop Fart. Their encounter wasn't over yet. An iron golem carrying a high-ranking vampire named Velas appeared. Velas had an offer for Jin-hyuk and Teresa: go with him quietly or become his appetizer while the others were dragged along. Meanwhile, a message from the system reached Teresa, inviting her to rescue the assault team in the innermost room of the Cloister of the Fallen. If she accepted, all monsters and traps leading up to the last room would be halted. Teresa felt torn and worried. She wanted to rescue her team, but she knew she couldn't defeat Alice alone, and even with the support of her assault team, the outcome might not change. Teresa was facing a big problem. Alice, the powerful vampire, was causing all sorts of trouble, but there was one person who could help her, Jin-hyuk. Even though he was really arrogant, Teresa knew he was the only one who could defeat Alice, so she made a deal with him. She promised to give him all the coins she had if he helped her defeat Alice. Together they went to meet Alice, who had called them for a reason. She smelled something sweet like gin, and there they saw Hajin Hill tied up. He was the one who awakened the Guardians, but Jin-hyuk, he didn't seem scared at all. Alice was acting like a psycho, but Jin-hyuk kneeled in front of her and offered something even sweeter than his blood freedom. Before we continue, let's take a moment to shout out Acid Cake 1084, who commented, "Nice vid" on our Isekai'd 101 times video, thanks for commenting. Jin-hyuk said he represented the demonic humanity of the tower and claimed to have reached the temple on the 27th floor. Alice didn't believe him and attacked him, but Teresa defended him. Just when Teresa thought Jin-hyuk had her back, he stabbed her. Alice was amused by the betrayal and challenged him further. He did it again, and Alice was convinced. Then Jin-hyuk explained his plan. He wanted to use the 7-star skill soul transfer to seal Alice's soul in a gram ring and take her out of the picture. He implemented the magic and offered it to Alice. She was skeptical but wanted freedom so badly that she stepped in and agreed to the magic. She warned her subordinate to slay Jin-hyuk if he showed any malicious intent. The magic was completed, and Alice was sealed in the ring. Just when things seemed settled, Teresa revived, much to Jin-hyuk's surprise. Alice realized she had been deceived. Meanwhile, Teresa went to rescue her assaulting force, including the captain of the Balhead Guild. She thanked Jin-hyuk for helping her, even though dying at the hands of an ally was painful. She knew he had a reason for what he did. The system announced that Jin-hyuk had saved Teresa from death, fulfilling the condition to copy her skills and receiving the blessing of the star. Chunhwa stood up to compete for the many items and relics they cleared from the first floor of the ruins. He promised to compensate Jin-hyuk appropriately, but when he touched the fragment of Merlin's stat, he was cursed and lost all his hair, including his eyebrows and eyelashes. Many members of the Awakening Association were gathered outside the ruins, eager to find out who had cleared them. They expected it to be Chunhwa or Teresa, but to their surprise, it was a masked player named Jin-hyuk. After his successful return, Jin-hyuk decided to use his ring to talk with Alice. However, Alice was quite arrogant and dismissive. Jin-hyuk, determined to change Alice's attitude, decided to give her a free roller coaster ride that was so thrilling and enjoyable that it almost made her sick. After this adventure, he finally summoned Alice, who was now ready to seek revenge on Jin-hyuk. However, she had shrunk in size and lost some of her power, which left her in tears. Despite their initial conflict, Jin-hyuk and Alice made a new agreement. Alice would assist Jung-hyuk, and in return he would help her regain her family's leadership position in the Ataraxia family. The next day, Jin-hyuk headed to the Black Crow Guild's building to settle scores for what they had done in the ruins. He effortlessly made his way through the lower-ranking members and reached the top floor where Park Ha-jin-hyuk, the guild leader, was being scolded severely for his foolishness. Park Ha-jin tried to redeem himself by challenging Jin-hyuk, but once again he failed. Jin-hyuk then confronted the guild leader and easily disarmed him. He demanded to know about his redemption, but the guildmaster threatened him, mentioning that he had 50 ranking players in his guild who would seek revenge if harm befell him. Jin-hyuk paid no heed to the threat and attacked the guildmaster, tossing him out of the door in an instant. He spared Park Ha-jin-hyuk's life, acknowledging that his little sister had done much for him until now. Jin-hyuk noticed Kim, the guildmaster's secretary, who had a good academic background at Stanford, majoring in computer science and accounting. He instructed Kim to run for guildmaster, but realized that Kim was afraid of opposition from guild members. As a result, he appointed Alice to manage the guild. Jin-hyuk urgently summoned the A-rankers in the guild to the main building. When they arrived, they found the former guildmaster alive on top of a car. The world was now buzzing with discussions about the mysterious masked player, and only 2 people knew his true identity, Teresa and the guildmaster's secretary. With this revelation, Jin-hyuk asserted that he could finally be free from concerns about monopolizing the world. After getting his certificate from the Awakened Association, Kung Jin-hyuk came out to see his friends waiting outside. He introduced Alice and Kim Hee-wong to Yenhua and Tai-min. The 3 of them were new, but Alice quickly got along. She's a bit of a tsundere, if you know what I mean. After quarrelling about Alice's fuss yesterday, Jin-hyuk and Alice headed to their hunt. They arrived at Moonlight Lake, the most beautiful scenery in the Tower of Trials, yet deserted as people tried to conquer the tower to save humanity. Jin-hyuk stepped into the water, stopping at a carp statue that had a groove in it. This groove was noticed a while ago, but no one had succeeded in opening it. Little did they know that the key to opening the groove was not any factual item, but instead moonlight. Jin-hyuk placed his hand on the statue and adjusted it for the moonlight to enter, opening the door leading underground. Even Alice was surprised to have found such a place. Suddenly, Jin-hyuk wondered if Alice and the other beings inside the tower knew that they were NPCs of a game, so he asked. But a glitch happened, preventing them from talking. A bunch of insects rolled out from all sides and stopped Jin-hyuk's train of thought. What will happen next? Find out next time by staying tuned for our future recaps. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great recaps.
Observing how effortlessly Jin-hyuk handled the initial swarm of insects summoned by Anubis, the situation escalated as Anubis summoned a more formidable bee. Jin-hyuk, quick on his feet, responded by creating an intricate ice formation that shattered the bee into countless fragments. However, to his surprise, those fragments coalesced, giving rise to an entire bee colony. Remaining unfazed, Jin-hyuk produced a sizable pill, its purpose clear to those in the know. With a sense of urgency, he triggered the pill's 1-minute activation time and leaped onto one of the bees, leading them to converge at a single location. In a twist, an enigmatic cube came into play, reinforced by Jin-hyuk's actions, and trapped all the bees. As if adding insult to injury, Jin-hyuk set the entire cube ablaze, causing a cataclysmic explosion that obliterated the entire bee colony. The sheer destruction unleashed by this gambit caused Jin-hyuk's experience points to skyrocket. Anubis seethed with rage, realizing he had been ensnared in Jin-hyuk's cunning trap, Powerless to counteract it, his only recourse was to depart, but not before taunting Jin Hyuk and daring him to venture to the 42nd floor. Soon after this intense encounter, Jin Hyuk received an unexpected call from Cheon. Cheon extended an invitation for Jin Hyuk to participate in a martial arts tournament organized by the Awakened Association, offering a coveted black market ticket as an enticement. Jin Hyuk agreed without hesitation, setting the stage for their next showdown. The following day, Jin Hyuk found himself at the tournament venue, eagerly awaiting his turn to compete. Meanwhile, excitement ran rampant throughout the venue as news spread about the live broadcast of the tournament, completely unedited as part of the Awakened Association's efforts to regain public trust following their recent failures on the third-floor boss raid. As the fierce battles unfolded on the tournament stages, Jin Hyuk garnered significant attention for his exquisite swordsmanship and martial skills. Among the spectators was Hong Daeokpyo, the leader of the Black Cloud Guild, who had recently extended an invitation to Cheon, only to be declined. On the other hand, Hong Daeokpyo's arrogant brother, Jung Do-hyun, formidable AAA level awakened, had looked down upon Jin Hyuk. When Jin Hyuk eventually emerged victorious in the tournament and pointed his sword at his next opponent, everyone, including Jung Do-hyun, assumed it was Hong Daeokpyo. Much to their astonishment, it turned out to be Jin Hyuk, an F-ranked player, standing before them. Despite the ensuing controversy, the two combatants wasted no time and commenced their duel. Jin Hyuk unleashed his advanced skill, the soul-chasing sword, launching a fierce assault. Jin Hyuk, undeterred by the powerful backlash from his counterattack, struck with such force that a section of the stadium crumbled under the impact. With his victory secured, Jin Hyuk easily obtained the coveted black market ticket. Taking advantage of the opportunity, he exchanged contact information with Lee Yuri and the elderly man he had encountered during the museum incident, cementing new connections. However, the audacious Jung Do-hyun, not one to be outdone, descended onto the stage in an attempt to recruit Jin Hyuk to his guild, leveraging the Eye of Truth to assess Jin Hyuk's intent. Jin Hyuk, ever astute, discerned that Do-hyun's motives ran deeper than a simple recruitment. Uncovering Do-hyun's true agenda was the key to unlocking the ability to replicate his unique skill. As brilliant as Jin Hyuk was, he quickly grasped the gravity of the situation. Having just defeated the tournament's champion, he was poised to become the star attraction. Jung Do-hyun could overpower him. The Black Cloud Guild would reap substantial benefits. Jin Hyuk confidently accepted Do-hyun's handshake challenge, and to everyone's surprise, Jin Hyuk easily bested him in a matter of seconds. Jung Do-hyun's brother, seeking revenge, challenged Jin Hyuk to a one-on-one duel. However, before the fight could escalate further, the president of the Awakened Association intervened, surprisingly extending a courteous apology to Jin Hyuk. He acknowledged the association's erroneous assessment of Jin Hyuk's abilities and declared Jin Hyuk as the 16th S-rank awakened in Korea, sending the audience into a frenzy. Reporters swarmed the scene, their excitement palpable. As they witnessed the unraveling of Jung Do-hyun's failed schemes, Jin Hyuk gained another valuable skill. The following day, Jin Hyuk luxuriated in a first-class seat on a plane bound for Las Vegas. Suddenly, Alice materialized and drew his attention to a blond man lurking in the corner. Using the eyes of truth, Jin Hyuk was taken aback to discover that this man was a demonic human. The enigmatic figure approached Jin Hyuk, extending an invitation for a drink. After some cryptic conversation, the man finally unveiled his true intentions. He harbored grievances against the enigmatic solo raider known as Unknown and sought Jin Hyuk's participation in his team's raid. To entice Jin Hyuk, he offered the Potion of Legends, capable of curing any ailment as advanced payment. However, his ultimate proposal was to entice Jin Hyuk to sign a death contract, a decision that would undoubtedly have profound consequences. Upon the blond man's insistence, Jin Hyuk firmly declined his offer and used his mana to create turbulence on the plane. Exposing the man's deceit about having a personal connection with Unknown, Jin Hyuk dismissed him and confiscated the Potion of Legends. The plane touched down in Las Vegas, where Jin Hyuk's purpose was to amass wealth for his forthcoming auction house expenditures. Determined to enhance his capabilities, Jin Hyuk tapped into his fusion ability, merging the Eyes of Truth with the Blood Demon Chi he acquired. This fusion granted him the Eyes of Gluttony, a coveted triple S-rank skill. Accompanied by Alice, Jin Hyuk arrived at a private gambling establishment where magic was freely employed by players. Alice was captivated by the exhilarating games within, but Jin Hyuk settled her at the bar and ventured forth to play alone. In an astonishingly brief span, Jin Hyuk accumulated a substantial fortune. The dealer, growing concerned, decided to go all in on their final round. Jin Hyuk matched the wager, and as the cards were revealed, he contemplated using his magic to alter their outcome. However, to his surprise, the cards displayed the same pair of jacks, securing his victory. The establishment's displeasure was evident, prompting a group of brawny enforcers to confront Jin Hyuk. Undaunted, Jin Hyuk took on the gambling house's guards, swiftly defeating them to the cheers of fellow gamblers. The manager contemplated seeking assistance from the guild that owned the establishment, but was persuaded otherwise by the dealer. The dealer presented news of Jin Hyuk's recent recognition as an S-rank awakened, leading the manager to regret his initial actions. Consequently, the manager halted the guards and humbly knelt before Jin Hyuk, offering a heartfelt apology. Jin Hyuk departed from the establishment, having extracted a handsome sum of $10 million. Outside, a waiting car arrived to escort him to the auction house. Upon arrival, Jin Hyuk and Alice entered a lavish mansion, where they were greeted by Julius Cedric. Julius introduced himself as the master of the blonde man, Kong Jin Hyun. Jin Hyuk, as expected, scrutinized the man's impeccable stats, and learned that the condition for replicating Julius's unique ability required achieving an A+ rating in black magic training. Julius, undeterred by Jin Hyuk's refusal to discuss unknown, proceeded with the auction. The first item up for bidding was a meteor, its use and properties yet undisclosed. Despite this mystery, the price quickly surged to $250,000. Recognizing the opportunity to stockpile meteoric iron at a relatively low cost, Jin Hyuk entered the fray with a bid of $300,000, hoping for a bargain. However, Julius swiftly outbid him with $1 million, acquiring the meteor. From that point onward, every item Jin Hyuk expressed interest in was instantly claimed by Julius for $1 million. Realizing Julius's intentions to coerce him into working for them, Jin Hyuk playfully toyed with the situation, leading Julius to purchase numerous items for exorbitant prices. Finally, the item Jin Hyuk coveted the most was presented, a seemingly ordinary chessboard. The bidding escalated to Jin Hyuk's limit of $10 million, but Julius, with a hearty laugh, offered $30 million, seemingly snatching it away. Just as Jin Hyuk felt the item slipping from his grasp, Alice unexpectedly stood and bid $100 million. Julius hesitated. Having already spent $100 million on seemingly frivolous items, he had an additional $10 million left. Unfazed, Alice confidently raised her bid to $200 million. An outraged Julius demanded proof of her finances, prompting Alice to reveal a staggering amount of gold and treasures, leaving Jin Hyuk the victor in securing the chessboard. However, the auction house was abruptly besieged by an attack orchestrated by Julius's associates, who sought to use violence to gain control of Jin Hyuk. In response, there was a substantial explosion that brought chaos to the auction. Recognizing the perilous nature of Alex's tactics, which involved absorbing life force to continuously summon monsters, Jin Hyuk altered his approach. Alex, believing he had anticipated Jin Hyuk's moves, summoned more monsters to attack him. However, in a surprising turn, Jin Hyuk froze Alex's monsters mid-attack, ensnaring him in a trap of his own making. As the battle raged on, Jin Hyuk discovered Alex's weakened state and delivered a severe blow with a knife. After mentally and physically tormenting Alex for a while, Jin Hyuk ultimately killed him, and the civilians thanked him for saving their lives. Meanwhile, on third floor of the Tower of Trials, specifically the Cathedral of Abhorrence, a redhead girl and a man with covered eyes appeared. Melina's teammates chided her for complaining about Alex, pointing out that her negativity only upset him further. Melina, however, remained indifferent to what she deemed useless emotions, and this difference in opinion led to a heated conflict within the group. Their leader intervened, cautioning them to maintain order, and proceeded to explain the reason for summoning them. He issued a stern warning about Jin Hyuk's dangerous nature, but his words seemed to fall on deaf ears. Undeterred by the leader's warning, Melina's group received a new task, assisting Cedric in his mission to eliminate Jin Hyuk. Meanwhile, Taemin and Yeonhwa were engaged in practice together, with Yeonhwa's powerful kicks proving challenging for Taemin. Their training session ended abruptly when Yeonhwa's kick accidentally knocked Taemin unconscious. Subsequently, Taemin and Yeonhwa joined the audience to watch Jin Hyuk confront the third-floor boss. However, Jin Hyuk donned a mask, concealing his identity from them and many others in the live-stream audience. As Jin Hyuk astoundingly answered the boss's extremely difficult questions, it not only surprised Taemin and Yeonhwa, but also left a lasting impression on the onlookers. Jin Hyuk's unique choice of reward after correctly answering all the questions also raised eyebrows. Rather than selecting the leaves suggested by the tree, Jin Hyuk opted for the elusive black leaf, which proved to be the most valuable. Outside the tower's entrance, two soldiers engaged in conversation when a mysterious magical force drained their energy. Meanwhile, Cedric and his accomplices proceeded to the tower, intent on destroying Jin Hyuk. Inside the tower, Jin Hyuk continued to conquer the third floor, with a substantial live stream audience following his progress. Annoyed by the discussion surrounding him, Jin Hyuk bluntly expelled those who did not share his intentions of making money from the live stream. However, Jin Hyuk's decision to end the live stream did not deter his dedicated fans. On a cliff overlooking the battlefield, Jin Hyuk observed the demons' dominance in the fight. He decided to intervene, catching the demons off guard. Initially confident when facing a seemingly lone opponent, the demons quickly realized the extent of Jin Hyuk's power. As his attacks turned the tables, Jin Hyuk swiftly eliminated Team 3, leaving Cedric in a precarious situation since his plan relied on 4 teams. If Jin Hyuk could dismantle Team 1, it would shatter Cedric's carefully devised strategy. Cedric's worst fears materialized as Jin Hyuk decimated the entire Team 1, leaving him incensed and determined to personally confront Jin Hyuk. Despite his teammates' warnings about the immense magical expenditure required for his formidable skill, Cedric resorted to a desperate tactic, sacrificing his own teammates to absorb their magical power. This act culminated in Cedric summoning a legion of mummies armed with steel-like bindings, a formidable force that would have been reserved for battling the boss. However, spurred by anger and the desire to exact vengeance upon Jin Hyuk, Cedric shifted his focus to eliminating Jin Hyuk first. Melina and her companions watched the showdown unfold, anticipating Jin Hyuk's defeat at the hands of Cedric's seemingly overwhelming mummy army. To their surprise, Jin Hyuk unleashed a newly upgraded skill that annihilated Cedric's mummies and inflicted significant damage on Cedric himself. Realizing the futility of his situation, Cedric contemplated an escape plan. Jin Hyuk mocked Cedric's cowardice and likened it to Alex's arrogance, pushing Cedric to confront his own inadequacies. In a moment of clarity, Cedric recognized Jin Hyuk as the masked figure before him, but it was too late. Jin Hyuk administered his own version of justice, sending Cedric to the 3rd floor's hellish domain alongside Alex. With Cedric's demise, his summons vanished, and the remaining demons grew fearful, knowing that their leader had met the same fate. Following the elimination of Cedric's group, Jin Hyuk continued his conquest of the 3rd floor. He encountered stone monsters, which he relished battling. However, as fatigue set in, Jin Hyuk demanded the stone statue to hand over the key to him. The statue summoned a powerful monster named Thousand-Armed, Thousand-Headed Avalokitesvara in response. Despite initially praising Jin Hyuk for his bravery, the monster engaged in a dialogue with him, expressing a desire for conversation. Jin Hyuk, impatient to proceed, refused to engage in conversation, prompting the monster to initiate the battle. The monster launched a formidable attack, which Jin Hyuk struggled to defend against. Nevertheless, Jin Hyuk managed to thwart the attack, leaving the monster elated by his resilience. Jin Hyuk then employed his freezing abilities to immobilize the monster and obscure its vision, subsequently targeting one of the monster's arms with his sword. The monster remained unfazed by the loss of its arm, but for Jin Hyuk presented an opportunity. He combined the jade from the monster's arm to create a new item, making the most of his resourcefulness. Jin Hyuk then utilized the Eyes of Gluttony to copy the monster's skills, a process that required him to sculpt the ice while listening to music. This unconventional approach angered the boss, prompting it to summon a powerful attack that allowed Jin Hyuk to accomplish his mission faster. Outside the match, Melina and Li Chao observed Jin Hyuk's unorthodox battle tactics with curiosity, found him enigmatic, particularly because he fought while listening to music and wore a wig. After witnessing several of Jin Hyuk's matches, Li Chao acknowledged his impressive power. Melina contemplated whether to engage with Jin Hyuk, but was advised against it due to his evident strength. However, just as Melina was on the verge of giving up, Li Chao decided to employ his secret weapon and discovered Melina's intentions. Meanwhile, as Jin Hyuk was struck by the boss, he refocused his spirit on the match. The boss unleashed numerous attacks. It was oblivious to Jin Hyuk's ice skills. As the boss launched its final attack, Jin Hyuk expertly dodged it, using the ice he had crafted to immobilize the boss. Successfully copying the boss's unique skills, Jin Hyuk completed the system's mission, leaving the boss infuriated by his newfound ability. Without giving the boss a chance to retaliate, Jin Hyuk swiftly administered his signature punishment, sending the boss to hell. Following the defeat of the 3rd floor boss, Jin Hyuk received the key and gained a level, result of his 2 intense battles with Cedric and the boss. Having expended a significant amount of mana during these battles, Jin Hyuk decided to purchase additional mana to replenish his reserves. He also contemplated the need to stockpile mana replenishment supplies for future use, as the sudden loss of mana could prove detrimental. Recalling an unfinished matter, Jin Hyuk remembered the unique environment within the tower. When night fell, the temperature dropped significantly, and the monsters grew more aggressive and powerful. Most players would either leave the tower or seek a safe haven during this time. While enjoying a giant shrimp, Melina and Li Chao approached Jin Hyuk, requesting permission to stay with him since they couldn't leave the tower while it was dark. Jin Hyuk, with his mask on, didn't refuse their request and invited them to savor the delectable giant shrimp he had prepared. However, Li Chao hesitated, wary of accepting food from a stranger, especially one wearing a mask. Upon Jin Hyuk's condition that they answer 3 questions, Melina and Li Chao eagerly agreed to unmask him and utilized coins to decide the order of asking questions, with Melina employing magic to manipulate the coin and emerge as the winner. As the first to ask questions, Melina easily posed 3 queries to Jin Hyuk. However, when she mentioned the Devil Association and disclosed that she had discovered Jin Hyuk and Li Chao, Jin Hyuk revealed that he had noticed their discovery, leaving them astounded. Despite being discovered, Melina and Li Chao weren't overly concerned initially, relying on the Caligula coin's magic to protect them. Unfortunately for them, Jin Hyuk utilized the Judgment of Anubis skill, rendering the coin's magic ineffective. To appease the spirits he had summoned, Jin Hyuk used the food that Li Chao had initially refused to offer them, awakening these ethereal beings. 2 spirits surrounded Melina and Li Chao, and Jin Hyuk warned them to remain still. Disregarding the warning, Li Chao doubted the spirit's power and was subsequently punished by one of them. Witnessing Li Chao's punishment filled Melina with terror, and she regretted not withdrawing earlier. Sensing Melina's apprehension, Jin Hyuk offered her the opportunity to answer some questions and pledged to release her afterward. As Melina was about to reveal the organization's true purpose, Li Chao attempted to intervene, but was punished by the other spirit. Jin Hyuk continued to manipulate Melina, coercing her to divulge the demon organization's true objective. Melina disclosed that her leader was Lancelot, with 11 others outside her. However, she possessed limited information about them. Melina overheard an operator mentioning that if they gathered all 12 of the cursed divine artifacts, it could continue to exist, despite humanity. Jin Hyuk deduced that they were collecting these items to summon the Demon King, incorporating this information into his future plans. Jin Hyuk compelled Melina to sign a contract, promising to release her in exchange for her cooperation. Following this encounter, Jin Hyuk resumed his live stream journey to conquer the 3rd floor of the tower, exciting many viewers. He used the key to open the gate, leading to a confrontation with Mu Han. While Mu Han recognized Jin Hyuk's strength and fighting spirit, Jin Hyuk dismissed him, believing that Mu Han's power was insufficient to overcome him. Jin Hyuk strategically deployed his chess pieces to engage them. The battlefield crackled with tension as both sides clashed. After a fierce battle, Jin Hyuk successfully obliterated the entire first team of 1,000 soldiers. In response, Mu Han swiftly summoned teams 2 and 3 to fight alongside his. Jin Hyuk demonstrated his exceptional tactical skills, directing his chess pieces to target crucial enemy positions and decimate teams 2 and 3. Mu Han watched in astonishment as Jin Hyuk's tactics outplayed his strategy. He realized that the key to victory lay in destroying the king, which would render all of Jin Hyuk's chess pieces inert. However, Jin Hyuk's king was well protected, leaving him with no easy path to victory. Undeterred, Mu Han decided to sacrifice 3,000 supporting soldiers to attack Jin Hyuk's vulnerable king position. Recognizing Mu Han's loss of 3,000 troops, Jin Hyuk quickly reinforced his forces to counterattack. Despite falling into Mu Han's deliberate trap, Jin Hyuk faced the challenge confidently. Mu Han summoned 2 stone statues to confront Jin Hyuk, beginning to doubt his chances of success. However, Jin Hyuk's unexpected ally, Alice, astounded Mu Han by wiping out his army. Jin Hyuk capitalized on the chaos and thwarted Mu Han's plans, causing him to experience a complete mental breakdown. Mu Han, overwhelmed by Jin Hyuk's relentless attacks, left his teammates to handle the situation and attempted to flee. Anticipating this, Jin Hyuk executed a decisive strike, defeating Mu Han and successfully opening the 4th floor of the tower. In the meeting room of the general department, the individuals whom Jin Hyuk had assisted in conquering the 3rd floor showed ingratitude, attempted to destroy him, believing that he was competing for viewership. Teresa disagreed with this perspective and opted not to participate in such meetings, but her suggestion was rejected by the leaders, who believed that only those they deemed good people should be involved. Jin Hyuk, meanwhile, strolled along the beach when he received a call from Yeonhwa, informing him of Yeonhwa's grandfather's severe injury. Yeonhwa's grandfather, who had conquered the tower, was on the brink of passing away. The system announced that if Jin Hyuk could save his life, he would have the opportunity to copy the skill of an A-rank healer. Jin Soo, a healer, arrived and expressed doubt about Jin Hyuk's ability to help, assuming he only knew how to fight monsters. Yeonhwa defended Jin Hyuk, asserting that he was her best chance for assistance in this dire situation. Jin Soo, in an attempt to buy some time, mentioned that he needed to study Yeonhwa's disease. However, Jin Hyuk wasn't convinced and decided to employ his Eye of Gluttony skills. To everyone's surprise, he uncovered Jin-Soo's deception, exposing his cheating. Despite being caught, Jin-Soo remained adamant, refused to admit his wrongdoing. Instead, he implored Jin-Hyuk to provide evidence. Realizing the situation was turning against him, Jin-Soo contemplated running away. However, before he could make his escape, Yeonhwa intervened and warned him to stop. Jin-Hyuk stepped in and advised Jin-Soo to calm down and prioritize Yeonhwa's grandfather's treatment. Eventually, Jin-Hyuk utilized the elixir to treat Yeonhwa's grandfather, resulting in a swift recovery. The system announced the mission's success, granting Jin-Hyuk the ability to copy Wonna's skill. With Yeonhwa's grandfather healed, Jin-Soo and his accomplices attempted to flee, but just as Jin-Soo reached the door, Jin-Hyuk intercepted him and delivered a beating. In a surprising turn of events, Jin-Hyuk offered forgiveness to Jin-Soo if he repaid Yeonhwa. Realizing he had no other option, Jin-Soo promptly returned the money and fled. However, Jin-Hyuk's real motivation was to uncover the organization behind Jin-Soo's actions. Later, Jin-Hyuk assigned Alice the task of tracking down Jin-Soo to gather more information. Meanwhile, in Grandpa's disease room, Jin-Hyuk and Xiangyong discussed the events that transpired in the maze. They realized that the mysterious person who had injured Grandpa was also a resident of the tower. Yeonhwa commented on Jin-Hyuk's talent and experience, expressing his desire to repay him for saving him. Jin-Hyuk reveled in the luxurious feast before him, reminiscing about the days when he had nothing to eat but ramen. Jong, on the other hand, was giving an interview about the tower's ongoing problems. However, he was merely fabricating information he didn't possess. Jin-Hyuk took the opportunity to announce his intention to conquer the 4th floor, leaving Jong speechless. Upon entering the 4th floor, Jin-Hyuk had only 20 minutes to explore before other players joined him. He chose Sangam World Cup Stadium as his base. There, he summoned Taemin, Yeonhwa, and Teresa to form a team. Yeonhwa and Taemin were worried about their team's size and their ability to combat zombies. Jin-Hyuk reassured them by explaining his choice of the stadium as their base. Teresa was curious about the need for a team of 5 when they only had 4 members. Before Jin-Hyuk could elaborate, Yu-sung suddenly appeared, adding an unexpected twist to their plans. As Jin-Hyuk's team arrived at their base, they encountered Murim's group. The leader of the group introduced himself as Namgung Hyun, but Jin-Hyuk showed little interest. Instead, he made a disrespectful comment about Namgung's clan, which immediately sparked anger in Namgung. Without hesitation, Namgung launched an attack on Jin-Hyuk, causing tension to escalate rapidly. Jin-Hyuk's team quickly assumed combat positions, eagerly anticipating the unfolding fight. Jin-Hyuk's offensive moves created significant pressure on their opponents, causing some of them to panic. However, Namgung's strength was far from negligible, presenting challenges for Yoon-soo. Teresa's support proved crucial in helping Yoon-soo hold his own against Namgung and buying more time for Jin-Hyuk. During the heated confrontation, Jin-Hyuk noticed something peculiar. The residents within the triad seemed to be more interested in reconciling the two fighters than in assisting Namgung. Despite his anger, Namgung realized that seeking revenge against Jin-Hyuk was not the immediate priority. Just as Namgung was about to continue his attack on Jin-Hyuk, his teammates alerted him that a wave of zombies was about to appear. Realizing the imminent danger, they decided to retreat. Jin-Hyuk warned them that he had taken control of the stadium. They seemed unfazed, even left a message promising to return after dealing with the zombie wave. As the first wave of monsters, the zombies, began their assault, Jin-Hyuk explained his plan to his team members. Their primary objective was to protect the flag from the approaching zombies. Jin-Hyuk had strategically placed giant trees at the 4 gates to fortify their base. All they needed to do was defeat the most monsters to receive rewards. Jin-Hyuk's team began dividing the area and engaging the zombies, with the giant trees proving to be formidable allies as they unleashed their firepower. Even though it was only the first wave, these monsters proved to be a significant challenge for many teams. Jin-Hyuk continued to bolster their defense by adding more giant trees at the gates. However, to facilitate the growth of these giant trees, they needed a special fertilizer. Jin-Hyuk's teammates observed his actions with a mixture of surprise and curiosity, while Namgung's team wondered how Jin-Hyuk had knowledge about their origins within the tower. Jin-Hyuk reappeared with a giant tree that had consumed all their food supplies. Before they could fully process this unexpected development, Jin-Hyuk revealed that he also had knowledge of the queen. He explained in detail the information about the queen and the conditions required to summon her. Jin-Hyuk was actively working towards satisfying these conditions. Namgung's teammates couldn't comprehend Jin-Hyuk's motivation for wanting to summon the queen, as defeating her, even with the eligibility to do so, was a daunting task. Jin-Hyuk clarified that fighting 100 battles against monsters was more troublesome than facing the queen, shedding light on his strategic approach to the situation. Following his actions with the giant trees, Jin-Hyuk left the base through a hole in the roof. The system then notified everyone that Pandariel, the owner of the fourth floor, was starting to punish weak players. Jin Hyuk had intentionally provoked Pandariel by using an item to destroy the boss on the third floor, successfully drawing the owner's attention. In response, Pandariel launched an attack on the stadium. Jin Hyuk received a scolding from his teammates for luring the boss of the fourth floor to their base. Moreover, they had also learned that Jin Hyuk was the one responsible for destroying the supermarket. Later, Jin Hyuk discussed his plan to confront the Queen, with Eun Seok playing a crucial role. The Queen had ordered the destruction of everything else, but Jin Hyuk intended to fight her. When the Queen arrived at the stadium, she was taken aback by the unfolding events before her. Jin Hyuk's strategy involved using everyone as bait, with Eun Seok being the key element due to his substantial wealth. Jin Hyuk aimed to avoid using his own money. The Queen fell into Jin Hyuk's trap, being attracted to the bait in the stadium. Seizing the opportunity, Jin Hyuk headed for the Queen's base. One weakness of the fourth floor, applicable to both players and zombies, was the necessity to protect their respective bases. The Queen couldn't chase Jin Hyuk due to the distance, and Jin Hyuk faced a guardian protecting the Queen's flag. The guardian was formidable, but couldn't withstand Jin Hyuk's sword. Still, it refused to give up, prompting Jin Hyuk to swiftly end the confrontation with a powerful explosion, marking his 31st victory. As Jin Hyuk approached the flag, the High Spirits approached him with a trade proposal, expressing their desire to avoid having a winner on the fourth floor. When the Queen finally returned to her base, she questioned why Jin Hyuk hadn't taken the flag. Jin Hyuk explained that he had made a deal with the spirits who wanted to witness his battle against the Queen. Challenged by Jin Hyuk, Queen warned him that he would regret his decision. Jin Hyuk contemplated his plan to defeat the Queen, since his abilities alone weren't sufficient for the task. Suddenly, the Queen launched an attack from behind, but Jin Hyuk managed to evade it. The more he dodged her attacks, the angrier the Queen became. Jin Hyuk's attacks inflicted injuries on the Queen, but couldn't destroy her. The battle grew increasingly intense, with high-level spirits who were watching providing items to Jin Hyuk to continue the fight, as they were genuinely interested in the outcome. With enough items in hand, Jin Hyuk combined them to create a powerful new weapon to battle the Queen. However, the weapon was deemed too potent for the fourth floor by the system, leading to interference. Jin Hyuk could only use this weapon once, but that proved to be more than enough for him. As the Queen sensed the imminent danger of the weapon Jin Hyuk had just created, she attempted to escape before she could flee. Jin Hyuk unleashed the destructive power of the weapon, obliterating her. In her final moments, Pandariel recalled her past when she was young, before being completely destroyed. Jin Hyuk had successfully conquered the fourth floor, and with the defeat of its owner, he was leveled up significantly. News about the conquest of the fourth floor, which had been open for less than 24 hours, spread rapidly online, leaving everyone astonished. The entire team celebrated their incredible victory in conquering the fourth floor in just one day. Due to Jin Hyuk's thrifty nature, he passed all the party expenses to Alice. Jin Hyuk reminisced about how he used to conquer new floors alone, but now he had his teammates with him, creating a warm and bustling atmosphere that touched him deeply. Upon returning home, Jin Hyuk reassessed his newfound strength, noting a remarkable increase. Next, he decided to open a random box, applying his professional gaming knowledge. Jin Hyuk had discovered a bug in the game that allowed him to hit an A-level item on the 37th spin if he continuously spun without interruption. He used this method to assist Eun Seok in obtaining the item he desired. However, the downside was that the item would be destroyed after a week. Jin Hyuk couldn't help but silently revel in his sinister amusement, hoping to see the look on Eun Seok's face after the item's destruction. Preparing for his conquest of the fifth floor, Jin Hyuk made use of the ticket to the magic library to gather items and knowledge for the upcoming challenge. Inside the library, Jin Hyuk encountered Rick Hennessy, the library's keeper. Hennessy was surprised that Jin Hyuk had reached the magic library and offered advice, explaining that the library contained magic books written in rune script, which he couldn't read since he had only reached the fifth floor. To Hennessy's astonishment, Jin Hyuk confidently claimed he could read runes, which left the library keeper amazed. Curious about Jin Hyuk's background, Hennessy asked, and Jin Hyuk spun a tale, stating that he was protected by the High Spirit Anubis. Learning this, Hennessy apologized for any previous disrespect he had shown Jin Hyuk. Jin Hyuk chuckled at the thought of Anubis being shocked by the fabricated story he had just concocted. As a gesture of atonement, Hennessy decided to gift Jin Hyuk a book from the library. After selecting an ancient book from the magic library, Jin Hyuk received advice from Rick Hennessy because the book was known to be challenging to decipher. However, Jin Hyuk astutely identified the book's origin and author, earning admiration from Hennessy. Before Jin Hyuk left, Hennessy expressed his desire to keep an eye on him and hoped to see him again in the future. Moving on to conquer the fifth floor, Jin Hyuk found himself locked with other players, all vying for skills and trying to survive. Players were only allowed to use F-level skills, and the primary rule was to stay alive and escape. Jin-hyuk possessed the Book of Macadrian, which permitted him to unleash one of his skills from bondage. As Jin-hyuk prepared to advance, Teresa suddenly appeared, causing him to scold her for following him to the dangerous 5th floor. Teresa explained that her concern for his safety led her to accompany him. When Teresa attempted to turn on her flashlight, Jin-hyuk stopped her, as they needed to remain hidden. Another group of players used fire for illumination, but attracted the attention of the monstrous creatures on the 5th floor. Jin-hyuk emphasized the need to conceal their presence, as they couldn't afford to engage the formidable monsters in combat. While conversing with Jin-hyuk, Teresa was suddenly attacked by one of the monstrosities. Although she managed to dodge the attack, they were both spotted by a group of these creatures and surrounded. Jin-hyuk used a pin to fend off the monsters, terrifying them. The boss of the monsters appeared and began playing catch with Teresa and Jin-hyuk. The creature's leader reported to their master about Jin-hyuk and Teresa, considering them special sacrifices capable of making the proxy's task difficult. Teresa was surprised by how swiftly the giant proxy moved despite its massive size. Jin-hyuk decided they needed to accelerate to escape from the relentless proxy and use Teresa's flashlight to distract it. Implementing their plan, Jin-hyuk worked to divert the proxy's attention, while Teresa was given a secret mission to execute when the time was right. While on the run from the proxy, Jin-hyuk received a job offer from a servant of a high-ranking spirit. However, Jin-hyuk, understanding the game's mechanics as a professional player, flatly declined the spirit's invitation. This rejection left the spirit furious, and he cursed Jin-hyuk, making him a target for various demons until his death. Teresa continued her mission to rescue others who were trapped and filled with fear. She comforted and encouraged them to leave the 5th floor safely, convincing many players to regret their participation in the dangerous game. Some players who constantly complained were warned by a peculiar individual named Hosenfeld, who approached Jin-hyuk for the first time. Jin-hyuk realized that Hosenfeld was stronger than he had initially thought. While Jin-hyuk desired Hosenfeld's mental barrier skill, he needed to meet specific system requirements to copy it. Hosenfeld and the leader were disappointed by Jin-hyuk's actions, suspecting they had chosen the wrong person. Hosenfeld warned Jin-hyuk of the challenging circumstances he would face. Jin-hyuk responded with a peculiar and seemingly inanimate action that caught Hosenfeld's attention. To Jin-hyuk's surprise, Hosenfeld didn't appear to have been deceived, and a tragic scream echoed through the area. Hosenfeld explained that they would have to face such situations, but he offered a key to anyone who provided him with unknown information. Intrigued by the offer, Jin-hyuk proposed a trade. He would reveal Unknown's name if Hosenfeld disclosed his real name to Jin-hyuk. Hosenfeld agreed and shared his real name with Jin-hyuk, who reciprocated by revealing Unknown's name. In return, Hosenfeld handed Jin-hyuk the cell key. However, the key couldn't be used with the current lock. Meanwhile, Teresa confided in Andrea, a resident of the tower who was often bullied by others in the cell. Despite being mistreated by her fellow inmates, Teresa offered Andrea comfort and support. As the monstrous creatures selected their next sacrifices, each room was asked to choose one person. If they couldn't decide, the entire room would become sacrifices.